Social. This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brennan, and in this episode, we're in conversation with one of British Speedway's rising stars, who already at the age of 20 has become the under-21 British champion and a world champion.
What a moment for Britain! Great Britain are world champions! Can you believe it?
We all had dinner together and had the trophy there, all the medals, and it was just like, you know, what the hell?
We'll hear from Tom Brennan on what it was like to be part of that squad on an incredible night which ended a 32-year wait for Great Britain to be crowned as world champions in Speedway. We'll also look back on last year and look ahead to the upcoming season in 2022 with both the Belle Vue Aces and the Glasgow Tigers, and much, much more besides. There's a lot to talk about, and before the end we'll also find out what Tom's dream Speedway meeting would look like, including his all-time 1-7, the opposition, and what rule he would change as well. All to come on Humans of Speedway. And without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to Humans of Speedway, Tom Brennan.
Hello.
I know a lot of fans will be looking forward to hearing from you because you had such an amazing season last season and no doubt big things yet still to come for you as well. But first of all, just to wish you well, because I know that you've had a very tough time personally over the last few months. I know that all of the Speedway world have been thinking about you and all of that. So just to hope you're doing all right, that's all.
Thank you. I mean, as you say, it's been a pretty tough couple of weeks, but no, as you say, I've had some great support from a lot of people. Obviously, especially in Speedway, it's all one big great family. So, no, for me it's been tough, but I've also been very, very lucky to have the people I've had around me. So
yeah,
thank you.
Sure. Well, let's start by looking at last season, though. First up, we'll get into the Speedway of Nations thing a little bit later on. So if anybody wants to just skip to that, that'll be later. We'll talk about that in great depth in a bit. Just about your clubs, really, because last season, of course, you started with Belle Vue. Big step up for you into the Premiership, one of the first rising stars, of course, when that system came in. And you're also with Eastbourne, which we'll talk about in a moment. But first of all, for Belle Vue, what a club to join. One of the great names, not just in British Speedway, but in World Speedway, one of the oldest names. And with that, though, comes a little bit of pressure, I suppose, as well. But a supportive atmosphere, would you say, of course, within the club that helped you. As you look at your results through the season, you had some great performances in the Belle Vue colours.
Yeah, as you say, obviously to kind of have the call from Mark was unbelievable, really. Obviously when they announced that there would be the rising star kind of position, it was more the fact of, let's kind of hope and sort of hope we can sort of get settled in there nice. And obviously when Mark called, it was almost like a big dream come true. It was to sort of represent the Aces was absolutely amazing, and couldn't come at a better time for me. Obviously having almost 2 years out, obviously racing and then sort of being pushed into that, it was a little bit too much at the start. We obviously trying to make everything right and trying to be prepared as much as we can. But it was an absolutely great opportunity, and I'm absolutely overwhelmed that I can be back again there this year. As you say, it sort of struggled a little bit at the start, but I think as the year went on, we sort of progressively got that little bit better, even though the scores may not have shown that. Obviously, I learned a lot from that. So. No, as you say, it's great obviously to be back there again, and that was a massive learning year for me, and everyone made me feel like I was home. So obviously that's the main thing, wherever you want to be, whenever you're riding for any team. So no, very, very grateful to be.
As you say, that your performances did get better as the season went on, which is what the Rising Star thing's all about, isn't it? That's It's about supporting you and not putting the pressure on you, not riding at number one. You are there to help the team out, and you delivered 13 points, 9 points in the grand final second leg. You probably would say you had better success away from home than you did at the National Speedway Stadium.
Yeah, I did, and that's obviously always sort of something funny to say, because you always sort of believe that your home track's going to be your best track, and for me, unfortunately, it sort of turned to be the opposite. Yeah, well, I say the opposite. I mean, we sort of had a few good home meetings, but as you say, the majority of meetings were away from home. Belle Vue's such a different track to what I ever knew. It's such a different atmosphere. It's such a complete different track shape. You know, obviously I'm sort of used to the Eastbourne style, turn the bike hard and stand the bike up and get off the corner, you know, whereas here you have to be relaxed, you have to kind of let the bike go. And that was a massive learning curve for me. Unbelievable. And I'm still learning now. I mean, obviously that's half the reason, well, the absolute main reason why obviously ended up going back there again was purely because we can continue learning. You know, that's somewhere that's obviously going to improve my career a lot. And like we say, I mean, I hope I can continue to learn there, but it is very, very hard to kind of get set up. But once we are, I think we should be okay.
And you probably say that looking further down the line in your career, that if you can crack Belle Vue, as we've seen with Dan Bewley, if you can crack Belle Vue, then moving over to the tracks in Poland and so on should be a lot easier, shouldn't it? You'd think.
Yeah, Dan. I mean, we can talk about Dan all day around Belle Vue. Absolutely unbelievable last year, and I think you can see the level that he obviously stepped up to last year, especially around there. And as you say, I mean, Dan's obviously always been quite good around there, but that definitely hasn't come easy to him. You know, he's obviously sat down and definitely worked hard, and definitely worked hard at that place. And obviously, people can like constantly say kind of, oh, he's like, I'm real fast on there because he's light and he's small and blah blah blah. But it's not. It's obviously because he can ride the bike really well and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, to kind of see him improve massively last year, and as you say, I mean, once he got kicked in, like as in like the last like few, the first few meetings, he was almost unstoppable around there. So I obviously aim to be like that, but you know, I mean, I'll be doing something well if I can be in that kind of category. So.
I know that we spoke to Sam Masters on the British Speedway podcast last season when Wolves were going to go to race against Belle Vue, and he was saying that he was getting an engine brought over from his Polish bike just to race at the National Speedway Stadium, and it delivered because he had a great night that night. So it shows how much that there is that link between how, you know, the setup for a Polish track and Manchester, because that's what these riders are doing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Manchester is probably the closest track you're going to get to anywhere abroad in England. You know, obviously you have Peterborough, Sheffield, places like that they're obviously big and fast, but the material is very different. It's quite narrow there. You know, obviously Peterborough is like a big circle, but kind of Belle Vue is the closest that like you will get to kind of abroad, you know. So for Sam to go do that obviously shows he wanted to do well. And as you say, I mean, you put the preparation in and you kind of understand what might work well there, and that's what happens, you know. I mean, so many guys might turn up with something that they might use around Eastbourne and then they go there and it's wonder why they struggle, you know. But it's the main thing around there is like trying to keep your speed up. I mean, that is the killer. I mean, because you could be coming in the corner and then suddenly Dan comes underneath you and completely kills your speed, and then you completely finish the rest of the race. So you have to use your head there. And I mean, like again, I mean, you kind of saw on the Speedway of Nations, Lambert and obviously Woofy and Dan and stuff, and how they kind of knew the track. You know, they kind of knew where they were coming from. They kind of knew how to pass and they knew how to race. So for them, it's great, and I really don't believe you can get much of a better racetrack than Belle Vue, in my opinion. So that's great, really.
Yeah, and of course you're back there next season. You were one of the first riders to be announced for 2022 for Belle Vue. Was it a straightforward decision for you that you're always going to be heading there, or was there a choice to be made between other potential suitors?
Well, it's always quite a tricky one. I mean, there's always different parts to kind of go into different clubs, and obviously you have like the deal, obviously kind of like what the contract is. You then obviously have how will it improve me in my career, and you kind of looks at the pros and cons, and then you kind of look at, well, I need to be there to kind of improve what I'm doing, you know. So for me, it was a no-brainer to go back there. It was it was the only sort of decision for myself. I mean, we could have had options where we could have gone somewhere else, but for me, it was that's the place that I felt that I was going to improve myself much. Not necessarily score the most amount of points. I mean, I could try my heart around Belle Vue, but I probably could go to Wolverhampton, same as what we said, and kind of maybe score more points and earn myself more money. But how is that going to improve myself for the future? So for us, it was a tough decision, kind of accepting that, but it was more. It was obviously like a no-brainer to kind of go back there. I mean, I kind of struggled most of the way through the year around there, but as soon as we kind of got to the end of the year, like we say, I mean, the improvement for myself personally after like the nations and like stuff like that in myself was massive. So I want to continue that. And we obviously talk about Dan all day again, but he kind of, he's kind of an example of someone that has sort of started at Belle Vue, similar to myself, in his first kind of league, in the top league. And I kind of would like to somewhat follow those footsteps. I mean, we're all our own people, so it's kind of, I want to try and do it my way, but at the same time, you can see how that works and the route he went down. And the rider he is today isn't from, sitting around and doing nothing. He kind of pushed himself every year. So for me, that's kind of the route that I want to go, and Belle Vue was an absolute no-brainer for me. So.
Well, I spoke about a year ago to Gary Havelock, and he was saying that, I mean, it's obviously way before your time, but the reason that he had the same sort of situation where he could have joined wherever, but he chose to ride at Bradford purely because Bradford was like the tracks that they had the World Finals on at the time. And whilst he always did terribly at Bradford in any kind of World Championship event, he actually won the World Final at Wrocław. And obviously the knowledge of how to ride that sort of track was one of the key reasons why that happened. So it is sort of an age-old formula really that get a track as your home track, like the ones that the big events are on, and obviously you're going to be better at it, aren't you?
Massively. I mean, in Speedway, it's so easy to kind of get stuck in this rut of being comfortable, Same in any job. I mean, you can obviously get kind of comfortable in one job, and you then don't really feel the need to kind of push yourself, because you're comfy, you can pay your bills, you can do this sort of thing. So what's the point, So, but for a speed rider, for any sort of athlete, I mean, I don't like to class myself as an athlete because you sort of runners and it's unbelievable, but I sort of class myself as a motorcycle rider. So no, for me it's a no-brainer to keep waking up every morning and trying to push yourself. Obviously we have so many training camps with all the teams. Obviously team of GB, we actually just come back from one literally 2 days ago, so we're always trying to push ourselves, always trying to find the limit. And for me, it's trying to not be comfortable. As silly as that sounds, obviously, I want to be scoring points and I want to be earning money, but at the end of the day, that isn't going to win me world championship. So it's to just keep pushing myself. Like you say, get out of that little bubble that we all know, and continue to move forward. So.
Yeah, and I've seen the pictures knocking around this week of the training camp, and obviously they've happened for a little while now, and these kind of things go on in the background with guys like yourself who are coming through, and this is the kind of stuff that fans really don't see much apart from the odd photo, but hugely valuable, I imagine, to you, both from a fitness point of view and team building and so much more. I mean, what was the general sort of format of these kind of events, and what sort of things do you get up to?
Yeah, well, it's hard, because Speedway's, how do you put it? Speedway's quite a basic form of kind of motorsport. So there isn't obviously 30 minutes plus 2 laps in motocross, or there isn't 100 odd laps you do in MotoGP. So they're obviously trying to find the limits and trying to find how Speedway works, because Speedway is such an unknown. So we obviously don't need to run the 1,000 meters as fast as we can and be, trying to do God knows what, same as these other athletes. We need to try and be as fast as we can for 60 seconds and off for 60 seconds, on for 60 seconds, so it's really hard to try and find that thing. And we're obviously really lucky that we have some great guys training us. Obviously Chris is absolutely amazing with what he does, and he's obviously worked with a lot of guys, so he's trying to find that kind of formula of what works right. And obviously some things won't work, some things that he might show us probably he might not even do again, but it's kind of to try and understand how Speedway works, which is the main thing. I mean, that's obviously with the fitness side, but we also it's obviously great to kind of bond with everyone, because there's like quite a lot of Speedway in at the minute. I mean, people are quite individual, which you probably noticed. I mean, a lot of fans have probably noticed. I mean, back in the day when people used to go for a drink in the bar afterwards.
Yes, that's
a shame, because some part of me does feel like that, like we should do that. It should be kind of part of that, because people love that. That's why Speedway was so big and everyone could bond with people. Whereas now it seems to be quite an individual sport. So for us, it was really good to kind of meet everyone again. And I mean, the majority of us have actually grown up together, so it's like an unknown. But you know, I mean, you can only probably look at Peterborough last year, obviously when they won the league. They were on and off the track together with everyone. They were talking to each other. They were having a laugh. They were joking. They all wanted to win that championship, you know. And obviously, same as Belle Vue. I mean, Belle Vue's team spirit last year was great. It was really good. But you could kind of see that step difference of kind of what they did, you know. So sure, now it's for us, it's just to try and make it, you know, as a team, you win championships, you obviously win leagues. So it's you know, one of those really. They're obviously trying to get us all together and be friends, which obviously is pretty hard when we've got to go race each other one week and then be a team the next week. But I'm pretty sure we're all strong enough and kind of old enough to understand when that time happens. So, no, as you say, it's an absolutely massive opportunity for me to be part of, for all of us to be a part of, and they're definitely pushing us. I mean, we had to have some few oxygen tanks with us, I think, because we got pushed the limit. But no, it's great. Yeah.
Was that the one last year where was it with the Royal Marines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. It was also one of the toughest days. Well, I would say definitely the toughest days of my life. It was
Really?
absolutely freezing, raining, but Jordan Palin absolutely loved it. Everyone was like, "I want to go home. Oh, this is awful." And Jordan Palin was absolutely gone, and we were like watching him, like, "Okay, yeah, you can carry on." But that was unbelievable. Yeah, that was one of those days you definitely won't forget.
That was was that the one where the Royal Marines basically offered Jordan Palin a job in the Marines if it didn't work out in Speedway?
Yeah,
I think, wasn't it?
I don't know about that, but I imagine you would.
That's what they said. They said if it doesn't work out in Speedway, you should sign up for the Marines. You'll get straight in or something.
Oh, he was. Yeah, I mean, it blew us all away. I know that for sure. It blew me away. But
I know, hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
So looking ahead to this season, then for Belle Vue first, we'll talk about Glasgow in a sec. For Belle Vue, you came so close, like the closest in forever, really, since to winning that title.
Yeah.
Obviously must have been, I mean, I know obviously the fans were frustrated, but not half as frustrated as the riders, I imagine, because you were so close. I mean, just talk us through that.
I know, probably one of the toughest things, you know, obviously fans and kind of supporters, it's kind of hard for them to understand what we're feeling also, because if you see us in third and fourth place and you think, well, you know, obviously what the hell's going on? And obviously that's the same for us. We're also thinking, what the hell's going on? You know, we're not obviously settling for third or fourth, but it's really hard. You know, it's obviously really tough. And obviously that like day, we obviously come with a 2-point advantage going into Peterborough, I believe, 2-point advantage, which wasn't much, but it was still an advantage. You know, so we had every option, we had every chance to go win that. And to be honest, we never sort of thought down on it. We never thought we would beat it when we got there. We never thought that like this would be impossible. You know, we were only thinking positive, and obviously Lemo's really good at that. He's obviously been there and done it too. So for him, it's like really cool to kind of have him in our pit and kind of explain to us different scenarios. So, I mean, we also got together, but sort of what I explained before. I mean, you could sort of see the step difference to kind of what the Peterborough boys were doing. I mean, I personally could see that. Obviously coming on and off the track and stuff like that, and meeting and greeting every rider and wishing them luck. And obviously Hans Andersen was injured that night, but he was around the pitch, you know, and obviously Brady was injured, but he was also around. So, you know, it was one of those nights where we absolutely tried our heart out, and I know for sure I definitely did, and every single rider did, you know, and there was a few things that went against us, but there was also a few things that went really well. And I think for 1 second we shouldn't feel bad. We shouldn't feel like we haven't tried our all, because we definitely did. I mean, to the people that kind of think that we pulled around at the back and take second, you know, take third and fourth, they are completely wrong, unfortunately. But again, we need to try and build on that this year, and I believe with the team we got, you know, should be again in that position and kind of squash the silver medal and go for the gold. So.
Yeah, so you're probably saying there that bit of experience, you know, people sort of laughed a little bit at Peterborough with their dad's army kind of thing, but maybe that experience actually did pay off and was the difference. Yeah,
I mean, they definitely embraced the dad's army thing, I know that for sure. But no, it was great to see, I mean, because they obviously built a great team from the start of the year and everyone was taking the mick, and, you know, why not? I mean, but they absolutely embraced it, and it started becoming part of their thing, you know, and everyone was going, oh, well, didn't really mean for that to happen, you know, it was meant to be a bit of a dig, but it turned out to be one of the best things for them.
It was the thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was their thing, and it was their kind of, I mean, it sounds bad, but it was their sort of like branding, They were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Dad's Army, come watch," and it was like really, it was quite cool. People get behind that, that's how most sports work, It's kind of you need to get behind someone. You may sort of see a certain rider you like because they might, I don't know, do something really cool, So for them, that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, the experience they had, obviously Bomber, Scott, Hans Andersen, Bjarne Pedersen, it was just unbelievable. Like the people they had in their side wasn't necessarily. I mean, they're obviously probably not all at the peak of their career. They've obviously probably gone sort of past it, but they still kind of, they still perform and they can still get behind each other and sort of get themselves back to their peak, with each other. So that was actually really cool to see. And as much as I wanted to beat them with every bit of my heart, it was also quite cool to see that they were all together, and you could sort of see midway through the meeting, we started to panic and they didn't, they were calm as anything and they were laughing, and that's kind of how they win championships. So for us, I hope we can take that on board and kind of embrace them a little bit, as bad as that sounds. I think for us, we need to definitely try and do somewhat similar to that. Well, any team does as such. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you will have more experience next year. And perhaps when you get to those parts of the season where, like this last season where you went wrong, hopefully you got that benefit of experience and you don't make the same mistakes again, I suppose. Looking ahead to 2022, a slightly different look to the Belle Vue Aces because you've had a few team changes, but some of you remain the same as well. And you are one of the old hands who's going to be remaining. Max Frick, of course, joins the side, which has got to be a big boost. And Charles Wright remains in the side as well. But back to Norrick, I mean, I saw him at Redcar, and he's an exciting talent, I think. Probably needs a little bit more time to really, probably get up to speed. But I think the fans are going to like him, I think, if you stick with him, and got a lot of talent. And he said in the Speedway Star that he'd chatted to you at the Prix de Craven, I think, last year, and you were talking about Belle Vue, and I think he spoke to Charles Wright as well. So he certainly had a feel for the place before signing up, didn't he?
Yeah, so we... That's funny, obviously, with Nick. I mean, we kind of met each other around about 2020 for like a European semi-final, and you sort of see him ride, and I had no idea, but he was only 16 at the time, maybe, and he's only 17. Is he 17 or 18 now?
17 now, I think, yeah.
17, that's what I mean, and the way he rides the bike is exceptional for kind of his age, and kind of his like experience, and I mean, we obviously get on really well, but for him to come to Belle Vue was I obviously didn't really expect it come last year, but yeah, he was really good last year. I mean, he was obviously in Poland. I think he raced for Lancia, I believe.
Yes, he's got quite a long contract there, I think, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he actually went really well, and I think for Belle Vue that's an absolutely amazing signing because it's someone that they can improve on. It isn't going to be someone that's at the end of their career. He's right at the start. And that's someone that Belle Vue can work with him. They can kind of show him a lot of things, and obviously that's the main thing. That's how he'll learn. But I also believe he's going to show us how to learn. So.
Well, as well, Egon Muller is one of his mentors too. So maybe he'll be doing a bit of singing as well afterwards. You can never tell, but he's got some good people around him. Egon, Robbie Kessler, and he's got a lot of experience in Europe. So as you say, might bring you some tricks as well.
Yeah, exactly. He was, I think that's going to be really good for him. It's also going to be really good for us. We're gonna. It's going to be exciting next year, and I think that's what people have to keep, because people can get very comfortable. Same as us, people can get very comfortable in like the riders they like, and they don't really like to take chances on like other guys. So for us, it's great. It's great to have a fresh team, to kind of embrace what we didn't quite do last year, and obviously try and make it happen this year. So it'll be very exciting, and I'm sure he'll definitely turn a few eyes this year.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I'm quite surprised he's gone straight in at the Premiership. Myself, I would have thought that maybe the Championship would have been the sort of next step. But, we've seen, though, like yourself, like Jordan Palin, like all the other rising stars, that you can be thrown in at the deep end, and maybe that's sometimes the best way to learn, It's
funny, I actually feel like an oldie now. I'm like walking around the pits, and I'm like, oh yeah, I still feel quite young. And then there's Jordan stood next to me who's like 17, 18, and you got this Norrick coming over his centre, and I'm like, I'm 20 years old. I'm gonna have to have my, you know. But, no, it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's life though. That's life.
Yeah.
I don't feel any older than like when I was like 18 or 19, and you know I'm 43 now, and it's hard to get your head round. With Glasgow, you ended up at Glasgow as a result of unfortunate circumstances at Eastbourne, which for you personally, that is your club, isn't it? And obviously you've got great family links to the club as well, and it's the place you've grown up at. So for you, it must have been harder to take than for most of the other riders, I would have thought, because you know there's that personal connection with that club as well, not just a sort of a financial one.
And so with Eastbourne, I mean, we could talk about this all day because there's so many different stories and so many different things and blah blah blah. But it sort of come down to they obviously kind of got into a little bit of trouble, which was unfortunate, which is terrible to see. I obviously grew up with Martin Dugard and seeing Bob and seeing sort of the empire that they obviously built, and obviously Conor and all of the others, you know, that they obviously built and got it to the state that Eastbourne Speedway was. I mean, they're almost like an empire, you know. They're obviously, the Dugard family was so involved in Eastbourne, and to see how much kind of effort they put into it, and then for the 1 year that they're not there, it just turned around and flipped, you know. And it was like as if it was almost as if like that club needed them to run it, you know. So it was a shame. I mean, obviously there's like a lot of stories which would be pointless getting into, but it's a shame. It's a real big shame. Obviously, like I say, I was there since I was absolutely tiny, and I can remember. So there's a lot of great memories there, and I really do hope they can get back. Maybe not with the same management from my point of view, but you know, whatever brings them, I really hope I can see Eastbourne Speedway back again.
Yeah, I think everybody hopes that that is the case, and you know, I know that there's a bit of time being taken out at the moment to think about things, and licenses are on hold and all that kind of stuff. But while ever that's the case, there's hope. And I think of all the tracks that are currently not got Speedway at them, that you'd think Eastbourne surely is one that is going to get itself going again at some point.
I mean, they're like obviously Oxford, but they're the only kind of track down south now. You know, obviously Rye House went, Lakeside went. So those were two big tracks that went, and obviously now to see Eastbourne go, I mean, I never thought I'd see the day when Eastbourne go, because you'd always kind of joke with Bob back in the day, and he would be like, yeah, well, you know, this is the last year of Eastbourne, and but you knew it wouldn't be, you know, you knew he couldn't let go of that, and obviously Martin wanted to continue that, so did Conor, and obviously things kind of changed, and then Martin then kind of ran the stadium, and then obviously other people come in to kind of run the Speedway, but as you say, I mean, the track at Eastbourne's great. It's different. The facility at Eastbourne are absolutely fine. Yeah, they're not the newest, but it's still Eastbourne. You know, there's obviously like a lot of history there. So for me, for a lot of people, for a lot of fans, for a lot of supporters, they want to go still support Speedway, but they also wouldn't want to travel 2 hours to Oxford, you know, so, or however far it is. So, you know, they want to go to and sort of support the club they have done for a long time. And I obviously hope I can see that soon.
Yeah, absolutely so. And we'll get into the backstory a little bit, because you mentioned Martin. Obviously, Martin's for people who don't know, is your stepdad, and so that's kind of obviously a massive influence, a British Speedway legend of his era. He was in the Great Britain team and all that, and all these big things which you won't remember, but I do. And you know, he was there around the same time as Kelvin and Gary Havelock and riders of that sort of era in the Great British setup, and of course synonymous with Eastbourne and plenty of other clubs but having him as an influence, obviously it's no surprise that you found yourself into Speedway because, you know, with that in mind, and no surprise, I think, that people will that you are, you know, even in your riding style and how you're racing, you know, there's definitely influence there, and yeah, I mean, just tell us about that, growing up in that kind of.
It's quite a funny story, really, and not actually many people know this, right? So we were racing Speedway. We started with the grass track. We obviously progressed through that, and then you got to the point where we can give the Speedway a try. And obviously, it was only really me, my mum, and my brother, Ben. So he obviously kind of took me to races. My mum took me everywhere. We decided we were going to the British Championships at Eastbourne, and we turned up and we had terrible bike problems. And I mean, it was like, we couldn't get off the line, we couldn't get the bike to start, and we had no clue. We kind of, obviously Ben did, but we just didn't really know how to fix it. So next thing you know, we kind of see this guy on a tractor, kind of like doing the track at Eastbourne, and we're like, he kind of jumped over the fence and gave us a hand, and we're like, oh, this is real nice of him. Obviously, me and Mum had no idea who this guy was, and he ended up fixing the bike, ended up kind of taking the bike back to his house for us, free of charge. I mean, he just kind of did it and wanted to help us, and Mum was trying to give him like 20 quid to this track man. It turns out it was Martin Dugard. So this track man that obviously had like gone out his way to help us. It was that was the first time we ever met Martin. I still had no idea who Martin was. We were kind of like, oh, is he still the track guy at Eastbourne? But that's always like a standing joke with obviously everyone. And no, I mean he's been a massive influence to me. And obviously from the age I can remember, being 10 years old, he was the one stood on the centre green and showing me how to turn the bike and wanted to see me hit this certain cone in a certain way. And that was absolutely great. But he also kind of taught me that that you can't get comfortable. I mean, he was one of the first people to say that he kind of wishes that he hadn't have been so kind of comfortable. And he obviously would say with Eastbourne, the majority of his career, I mean, I know he moved away to Oxford for a little bit, but he was comfortable, and he just kind of kept pushing that on me. You obviously want to get out of Eastbourne, you kind of want to be in that kind of be out of your comfort zone, So for him, he obviously taught me, I would say, the most growing up in Speedway. Obviously then had my brother help me massively. Obviously he I used to ride. But yeah, Martin was a massive influence, and he kind of took me over growing up. And then we got on the 250, and it all sort of clicked, and we decided we could make something of this. So yeah, no, that's how we met Martin, and he's been a great influence to me, and he still is. He's sort of slowed down a little bit. He's sort of doing the whole like house life now, but he's great. Obviously loving it, so really can't complain on that. So
that's a wonderful story, though, and just how Speedway connected you all together in that way as well. And but obviously, but I think that's good though that you've his experience there, saying that you shouldn't, you're getting the benefit there of a career of another rider who's been there, seen it, and can sort of speak to you from the future in some respects, and a big benefit to you to be going now to these places that maybe without that you wouldn't be thinking that way.
Exactly. And like I used to, when I was in my younger days, which was a while ago now, but around 2016, when I was just starting on the 500 and we just started racing National League, I would probably sleep until a standard teenager, sleeping until like 10 or 11 o'clock. Nothing's bothering me. I have nothing to worry about. Martin would wake me up at 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning with like a ringtone next to my ear and saying, "Get up." And I'm like, "What are you talking? No, what have I got? You have dirty bikes to wash." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I've got all day." And he's like, "Well, what if someone calls you to ask you to ride?" "Oh yeah." So he would get me out. If I had a bike to wash, he'd get me up. And I absolutely hated him for it. Like for the first couple of years. And then I was like, looking at now when I'm a bit older, it's like that obviously that's what's now pushed me to kind of get up and do my bikes and kind of have the work ethic. The work ethic that I do, because I could have taken the route as many kind of guys do of the easy life and kind of whatever suits me at the time. But I've learned quite quick that you need to go chase what you want, and that's kind of where it started. Really, was Martin waking me up and annoying me with a frying pan, smacking that or something. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a rude awakening. Fantastic. And one of the sort of common themes, because this last few episodes I've done of this podcast, we've spoken to riders of a similar cropper, if you like. There's yourself, Jordan Jenkins and Jordan Palin. I'd run out of Jordans to interview, so that's why we come to you. One thing they have in common is the family support for Speedway, which to do everything, your marketing, help you with that, cleaning bikes, getting you places, all these things that just never stop. And for you, it goes even deeper in a way, because your girlfriend, Kristen, is the daughter of Craig Cummings. Now, Craig Cummings was the sort of legendary mechanic of the era for Billy Hamill when he was world champion, 1996, ruling the world. And his son, Kyle, is your main go-to mechanic. But you've got all this support because Kristen looks after your social stuff as well. You've got, the Cummings family looking after your bikes. And what a fantastic position for you to have found yourself in.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Well, I don't even know where to start with that one. I mean, there's so many people that have helped me to get to where I am now and that will continue to help me to get better and better. And I mean, obviously, Martin would help me. But I was also quite an individual person. I kind of turned up to some practice days and obviously help like myself. I would obviously try and find ways that I could get to every practice day when I was 15, 16 and sort of jump in with vans of people if Martin couldn't go, or which the majority of the time Martin wouldn't go, purely because he was probably working in something. But I obviously wanted to try and continue, So I would jump in the van with you probably know Nathan Ablett and his dad. I would just be like, oh, can you come pick me up or can I meet you here? And they would, yeah, jump in and, we'd go. And that was the first sort of step of when I kind of met some people through Speedway, but they're obviously like a family to me now. I mean, they've obviously helped me massively, and without them, I wouldn't have had half the practice days and half the amount of support. So I'm obviously grateful for them, but at the same time, it's such a family orientated sport. I mean, my mum, she was my biggest fan, and she always will be my biggest fan. She was the one who sort of slaved all the driving and did everything. She paid for everything, obviously when I was really young, and she's the one who pushed me there, and she never gave up on me, even when it kind of looked like I wasn't going to do too good. She was like, we can keep going and stuff like that. And she'll always be here, and I know she'll always be here. So for me, that's obviously great, and I want to continue what she started too, which is one of the main things for me in my life now. Same as everything, obviously, same as my brother. I mean, he's the same. We kind of want to do things for her now, within respect. I mean, not obviously live her life, but we also want to make her proud. So for me, that's obviously a massive thing. She's obviously always been there, and then we sort of stumbled across Kristen. I mean, Kristen was completely out of the blue. I mean, we obviously didn't plan to meet each other. We never met each other. We just met, and it was one of those things that obviously clicked straight away. And we've obviously grown together as people. I mean, we obviously met quite young. I mean, I was 17 and she was 16. So, I mean, obviously 20 now, and she's just turned 19. So for us, we've built in one of the most important parts of our life. We've obviously built together, So she's been an absolute rock to me for so many years now. And it's quite funny because prior to meeting her, I never thought I would. I never thought that I'd settle down. I wouldn't like the idea, but she's absolutely, she's like changed my life. And she's now massively involved with the Speedway. I mean, people don't see it. All of my social media, all of my websites, any posts that's to do with Tom Brennan Racing, all my suit, all the sponsorship logos, all that sort of stuff. She deals, and same as my accounts. I mean, her and Kerry, her mum, have absolutely changed that for me. I mean, they've been the people that have changed Speedway from being a hobby to Speedway being a professional career. That's the difference. So, Kyle, who doesn't get enough mention too. Kyle is obviously Craig's son, Kristen's brother. He helped me last year when not a lot of people would. I mean, well, maybe not like even in 2020 when there was hardly any meetings. I couldn't really afford to pay him. I mean, truthfully, he would just come do it for the love of it, and he obviously wanted to help me and learn at the same time. Obviously, Craig, he's probably one of the best guys to sort of teach him. Obviously, in Craig. So no, for him it's great, and obviously he's now back on board next year helping me, this year even, which is unbelievable. I mean, he's just qualified for motorcycle engineer. He just did a 4-year uni course. So for him, Speedway's a starting point, and I'm really glad that I can kind of help him get to a certain point before he can then go and get a proper job. So or he can go and explore the world to what I believe he is more than capable of. So Kerry's been massive. I can talk about us all day. I really hope you've got another couple of hours. But
as long as you need. Credit all the people you need.
All the people. People know who helped me, and obviously everyone knows this. Obviously here for me, knows I'm very grateful for their help, and obviously my brother Ben. And it's just such a family-orientated sport that we wouldn't be here. A lot of us guys, well, everyone involved in Speedway probably at some point would need their family. I mean, everyone does, to kind of get them through life. And I'm at the point now where I want to try to give back what they've given me as much as I can. And I'm very, very grateful to be able to sit here in this house and kind of have the bikes next to me and be able to live my dream. That's one of the main things that I'll always be grateful for. And I continue to try and make everyone as proud as I can. That's obviously always the goal in life. So for me, no, thank you to everyone. That's obviously, especially family. I mean, that's the main one. But yeah.
I think you've got to listen to the universe sometimes as well. And whilst it's not always, life isn't always great, but these people that you meet along the way, as you've done, there's something there telling you that you've been introduced to some great people who are helping you go in this right direction, and you've got the talent to fulfill it, and the support around you. So that's got to be. Great structure, even though it's all sort of happened by chance in a way, but that's life, isn't it? That's how it goes.
You have to take it with both hands, and people don't have to help me. A lot of people don't expect anything in return. I mean, obviously Craig and Kerry and Kristen and everyone like that. I mean, Kyle, like everyone, my brother, no one expects anything in return for me. They don't expect me to say that they're helping me, or say that they want any credit. They're doing it because they want to help me and want to help me in my career, and I sort of hope they like me. So they're obviously trying to. So no, it's great, and like I say, I will forever be grateful for everyone that's helped me. And like you say, we have to take it with both hands and continue what we got, and just make it better.
Yeah, keep on keeping on, and we know you'll do that. And of course, your championship team that you ended last season with, to get back to your sides that you were racing with, Glasgow Tigers in the championship, pretty much just like Belle Vue, came so close to winning a title, and you were in both grand finals last year, and both times a runner-up, unfortunately. So that's something you're looking to sort out, I'm sure. And the Glasgow Tigers taking matters into their own hands by, sorting themselves out with a couple of riders from the pool team that was victorious, not only in the league, but also in the Cup, of course, as well in the championship. So that's one way to get one up on your rivals, isn't it?
Why not? I mean, we can take apart their team that won last year and put it into ours. So, no, I mean, Peter Facena, Cammy Brown, everyone at like Glasgow understand how to make a good team, and they are there to win. They're not there to mess around. They're not here to come second. They're here to come third. They're here to win purely. And as you've seen in the past, they are pretty ruthless. If you aren't performing, you will be out, and that's the way it works. We all understand that. We all get that, because they're not trying to. They aren't trying to fill the numbers this year. They're obviously trying to go win. And that's why I'm a part of it. Because I believe they want to build a real strong future, and I want to build a real strong future. So with us two together, we can work our way up the ladder, and hopefully I can bring them some success, and they'll also bring me some success. So as you say, I mean, Ostergaard, Cookie, they're just two names that have a lot of experience, unbelievable experience, that will always help, which is the main thing. I think obviously that's what they wanted in the team, was some experience. And then they've also got some unexperienced guys. I mean, like Conor Bailey, Ben Basso. I'm really not too sure on Ben Basso. Obviously, I sort of saw him a few times last year, but I've never spoken a word to him. So I hope he can speak English, because I can't speak Danish. So see what he said. And then, but he looks absolutely great. And he obviously won a fair amount of races last year. And I just saw this big green light in front of me sometimes, and I was wondering what the hell was that? And it was actually Ben Basso. So, he's been great last year, and hopefully he can continue his form onto what he's done onto last year. And he was almost like Mr. Entertainer last year for Paul. Every time you saw him, the crowd loved him. He had his pirate hats, and he was the first to go see the people. And that's also part of Glasgow. They're like trying to build a future for them and trying to make Speedway great again. And I think people like that. We could also talk about Danny Ayres too. I mean, obviously he was one of the greatest showmen in a Speedway, in my opinion, and they need people more like that. Obviously it's pretty hard to be that confident, but people are born with that, and let's hope that he can bring some spark to Glasgow, which I'm sure he will. Obviously Conor Bailey has been, obviously rode with him last year. He was really good, and obviously it's hard for him because his whole family had to move from Australia, and he's now kind of had to change his whole life around and live here, and real chase the dream. And like for all the Australian guys, for all the American guys too, it's just, obviously Brock's in the team too. I mean, he was obviously real cool to meet last year, and it was the first year I really got to know him, So for him, it's great he's back. But all of these guys have to change their life. Obviously for me, it's 4 hours up the road now, but for them it's halfway across the world. So it's obviously pretty tough, but they're a pretty strong guys, and obviously Glasgow have built a very strong team, and hopefully we can have I think we're going for a training kind of camp with all of them, so that'll be quite funny to see me on the floor. They'll have to get me a few inhalers. They'll probably laugh at me a few times, but no, it'll be great to kind of see everyone and build that team spirit and crack on with the year, because I'm sure it's a big year ahead of us.
I'm sure it is. And the new competitions, of course, in the Championship as well. The summer tournament is going to be something different, with a big grand final at Sheffield at the end of it. And a new track as well, Oxford. And you mentioned you've got family link there with Martin used to ride at Oxford once upon a time. It would be good to go and see the old place again, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, I was never been there. Never. I've kind of watched a few meetings there on YouTube as such, but yeah, Martin's a very closed book about Speedway nowadays. He doesn't really kind of mention a whole lot about his career. That's the sort of person he was. And people that remember Martin, he was very straight, down to the point. Let's get home as fast as we can and do what we got to do and sort of win races. That was his style, and some people loved that and some people absolutely hated it. But that's fine. He really couldn't care. So for him to kind of explain his career to me, he hasn't really opened up too much about that. He obviously mentions good moments and bad moments, but for Oxford, he always said how good it was. And kind of, he hasn't really made much of a thing, but we always kind of said, you always sort of see the pages on Facebook say Oxford Speedway, and it was like, is this really ever going to happen? What's going on? And it happened, and it's great to see because there's such a big community there still, So for me, that's obviously one of the biggest things that Speedways. Yeah, we've lost a few tracks, but we've gained a few tracks, So hopefully we can keep going ever so slightly and continue to make that progression. And Oxford looks a great track, and they've obviously trying to build a great team too. So for me, it's all go. As long as Glasgow are ahead of them in the points, it doesn't make a difference to me. So
touche. We're going to have a quick break, and then next on Humans of Speedway, getting on to that big subject of the Speedway of Nations, that gold medal win for Team Great Britain, ending a 32-year wait to be crowned as world champions, and Tom Brennan certainly played his part in that squad. We'll find out more about that fantastic day in October 2021 in just a couple of moments here on Humans of Speedway.
I haven't really woken up until I've had my McDonald's breakfast deal. And I know this is true because before breakfast, I put my phone in the refrigerator and couldn't find the keys that were already in my hand.
Nothing gets the morning going like the first sip of an iced coffee. Get any size and any flavor for 99 cents until 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Calling all partners. Losing weight is better together with Nutrisystem's Partner Plan. In fact, people who diet together lose 20% more weight than dieting on their own. Get new premium meals with up to 30 grams of protein. They're big and filling and taste delicious. Plus, try our new restaurant faves that taste like your favorite restaurant, portioned with half the calories. Don't wait. You could win big cash during Nutrisystem's Better Together Partner Plan 100K giveaway. And maybe win the grand prize of $25,000. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off your first month. You heard me right. Go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off. Don't wait. This partner plan offer will not last long. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/thin. See website for details on our 2-month subscription offer. No purchase necessary. Open only to U.S. residents over 21. Void where prohibited. Runs December 25 through April 4th, 2022. For official rules, visit Nutrisystem.com. Sponsored by Nutrisystem, Inc.
Now is the chance to use reliable energy to grow your money with the Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. Our new investment product offers competitive returns, no maintenance fees, and flexible online access to your money. Make the reliable investment in reliable energy. The Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. To find out more, go online to reliabilityinvestment.com. That's reliabilityinvestment.com.
You're listening to Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brennan. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like, follow or subscribe button on whichever app you're using. It basically just puts you in the VIP lane and makes sure that when any new episodes are released, you get into your device straight away. No need to refresh. That's got to be a good thing. So if you can do that, that'll save you a job next time. My guest in this episode is Tom Brennan, part of Team Great Britain, the gold medalists at the Speedway of Nations in 2021, ending a 32-year wait for Great Britain to become world champions. And what a night it was. We're going to talk quite a bit about this right now, Tom. But that wasn't your only success in 2021 because you were also the British Under-21 champion as well. You are positively tripping up over gold medals, Tom.
That one.
Oh, that's the one. Look at that. There it is.
That's the one of them. It's kept very safely on my shelf.
I bet. At this point, Tom is displaying his Speedway of Nations gold medal. It says FIM World Champion on it. So it's official. Tom, tell us about this whole process, because Team Great Britain, a lot of work has gone in over a number of years now, all at delivering success. And we knew it was a matter of time. And it happened on that day in October in 2021. You were part of that team. Tell us about some of the process towards building towards that success with Ollie Allen and Simon Stead, of course, but there's so many other people involved in the GB setup as well. But also about that particular event, because the Speedway of Nations, you have this halfway point. What were the conversations that you were having as a team back at the hotel after the first night, knowing that you'd done all right, but Ty Woffenden was injured? You were going to have a different team lineup for the second and decisive day, and you kept your cool.
Yeah, so, first off, Team GB, that's obviously what they work towards. They obviously work towards being Speedway of Nations champions. So to start off, that was obviously a massive dream come true for them, and that's what they're doing. All of us, they're obviously training all of us under-21s, under-23s, all of the squad are trying to be that champion. So for them, it was like it all sort of come at once. It was almost like a bit of a, well, okay, like we've done it, and it was one of the greatest feelings ever. Obviously when they ran into centre green, and they worked very hard for that. You can't like deny that everyone worked hard. Everyone a part of that team there, not only on that night, but for the last 3 years that have changed Team GB around. So for me, it was great to be a part of that. First off, even to be asked to do the thing, I had to double check with them that are they sure they want me to do it. So for them it was great, and obviously took it with both hands, and that was one of those things that you obviously look throughout the year and want to try to get the spot, but it's also one of those things that's completely out of your control. So you just do as best as you can, and luckily I ended up getting the pick, and I was really grateful for that, and I just wanted to prove that I was obviously the right choice. So yeah, after the first night, after I can't remember what the points were, but I know that we were in a good position. It was like, let's try and resettle. Obviously, Woofy had a big crash, which was really scary. That was one of those things where the stadium goes silent, and it was like, whoa, okay, is he all right? In typical Woofy style, he gets up and walks away, no problem. So it was, it was scary. But for us, that was great, because one of the main things in Speedway or in any sport, you have to prepare to achieve, right? So you have to kind of prepare, you have to put the time in, you have to understand what could go wrong before the event. And they had that ready, they had Dan Bewley had a suit. He had him ready, had covers made. They didn't have had his bikes there. So it was a no-brainer, obviously, because Woofy couldn't ride, it was like, Dan's in, and Dan was ready. He was ready for it from day one. He was obviously stood watching the first meeting with us. So for him, it was a big kind of shock to the system to actually going to go racing, and he obviously kept his calm and did his country proud. So that was really cool. But we had like a big they called it like a debrief, like kind of like a meeting after the first round, and we were all calm. There was no nerves, there was no kind of thought of what could go wrong, what could go right. It was just, let's go do it, and what we come away with is like what we come away with. And there was a lot of discussion prior, and obviously being in like the home team, like the home nation, and being at Belle Vue and all this sort of stuff, the home crowd and stuff, that brings that extra bit of pressure. But if you watch Lambert and Dan, they like kept their calm. And obviously for myself, it was tough, because you kind of just got thrown in at a random point in the meeting that I was racing, obviously, Philip, who did an amazing job for Sweden. He was a standout performer for sure. across the whole thing. He was a bit of a nutcase at times, but he's also was real good at others. So, that was really cool to see, and obviously the fans loved him, and he embraced that massively. So that was really cool. But I obviously got thrown in like a race with him, and it was like, hold on, he's been racing all day. He's got the setup. The setup isn't everything. It's probably 99.9% yourself. So, we have to just hop on and believe in yourself. And that's what I did myself personally. Obviously believed in like what I had. I believed in the people around me, and I knew how to ride the track. So it was more the fact of, let's just try and keep him behind me. And obviously that's what happened. And Ty kind of rode me home the first time, and then didn't quite go to plan the second time when Philip outgated sort of coming underneath me and Lambert at the first corner, and we had to kind of stay calm, and that's what we did. We both just were, yeah, we can get past it, and that was fine. We come in, and that was for me, job done. That's obviously what I was there for, and I feel like I've kind of fulfilled what they wanted. So for me, it was a fantastic feeling, and yeah, I could talk about it all day really. But yeah, to be honest, that was something that will be in my memory for a long, long time.
Yeah, it was an incredible weekend, really. But then, of course, it all came down to that big moment. And tell us about the winning moment. You weren't racing in the final heat, but you'd certainly done your job across the course of the weekend, and you were stood with Simon Stead and Ollie Allen and the rest of the GB guys who were in that area at that moment watching this final race. And it's Dan Bewley and Robert Lambert, Maciej Janowski and Bartosz Szmarszlik, and nobody would have imagined what was about to unfold, would they?
No, exactly, and that's like sometimes you need to take a little bit of luck, and we did have a bit of luck. We had a bit of luck with obviously Janowski crashing, but at the same time, was that a bit of luck? Were they nervous before the race? Did they kind of not speak about it before? Were they just going for the win? And obviously, I know Szmarszlik come underneath Janowski, and did that put him off? Did they? You know what I mean? So there's like luck to it, but there's also preparation to it.
Who will be world champions? Will it be Poland? Will it be Great Britain? Here we go! And the tape size and Szmarszlik has got there, and now Janowski is going to try the outside run. Great Britain cannot afford to hold the inside. Janowski's coming round. Poland are looking good here.
So obviously I know we were third and fourth at the time, but that's sometimes all you need is a little bit of pressure and show a front wheel. And obviously Janowski ended up crashing, which was unfortunate for Poland. I mean, it was pretty unfortunate.
And now Szmarszlik goes on. Janowski's coming off. Janowski's off. Great Britain are going to be world champions. Great Britain are going to be world champions.
As soon as that happened, I'll never forget looking around, and Ollie and Simon were just like a picture. They were like, they didn't know what to say. They were literally completely stunned. Like they were like, we've won.
Janowski is up, but Great Britain are going to be crowned champions of the world. Wow, look at this as Lambert goes wide. Szmarszlik up the inside. But now Great Britain are 2 laps away from being world champions.
And they were just saying, hold on, Dan, just stay on. And then Lambert was passing in Szmarszlik. And they're like, oh, no, don't pass him. Like they were shouting and stuff. And it was really fun. It was like one of those moments that like it all sort of comes out at once. All of that emotion from Ollie and Simon and from us, it was just, oh, what do we do now? And we won, and that will forever be a massive moment in all of their lives.
What a moment for Britain! Great Britain are world champions! Can you believe it? I've been saying all weekend long, it doesn't matter what happens in the 42 heats. It's all about what happens in a 1-minute moment of a grand final. Janowski lost control, lost the motorbike, and Great Britain avoid that last place, and Great Britain are world champions in the Monster Energy FIM Speedway of Nations!
We all saw the celebrations, and it was tremendous scenes at the National Speedway Stadium with both the fans and the riders, and it was a great occasion, of course it was. But what were the celebrations like among the GB team afterwards then? I imagine your team debrief was a little different after the second night than it was the first night.
It was really cool. I mean, we all like sat in, we all had dinner together and had the trophy there, all the medals, and it was just like, what the hell? What's going on here? How is this? The last night we were just no problem. So for us it was amazing. We all kind of stood up and said a few words, and then they all sort of disappeared to somewhere I probably can't say, and to some bar probably. But No, they absolutely loved it, and for us it was a great feeling for me to be able to share that with Kristen and obviously Kyle and Craig and stuff, and obviously my mum was at home, so she was watching that, and that was unbelievable. Same with my brother, so I'm so glad she got to see that, and at the same time to share that with Kristen and for us to share that moment together was amazing, and I hope we can continue to share those moments together. So.
Yeah, and also, of course, last year you became the British Under-21 champion as well, which was, it was between you and Drew Kemp, wasn't it? I don't think either of you had missed a beat all night until that heat where you actually had to face each other, and one of you had to come second, and yeah, that was a great night for you.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable night for me, and very rarely do you get a night where you don't have any problems, you don't think about what bad could happen, you don't have any doubt. That was one of those nights where it was confident, and we showed up, and I knew I had a job to do, and no pressure, just go and do it. Obviously I felt a bit of pressure from other people, but in myself, obviously I'm normally the person that puts the most pressure on myself, so for me I was calm, and we went and did the job. I had some great people there. Obviously I keep mentioning the same names, but obviously Kyle, Craig, Kristen, Kerry, my mum, everyone, so they obviously were all there, and again to share that moment and to put all that work in, because start of the year we were like wondering how the year's going to plan out, so for us to achieve that, and that's something that was a lifelong sort of dream, but at the same time it sort of felt right, it felt like we earned that, so for me it was great, and I want to hopefully we can continue that on, but I've done it now, and I'm obviously really happy that I can put that underneath my belt.
One thing to look back on, though, because firstly we had the 2020 where nothing happened, and you were flying in your career, 2017, 2018, you were champions of various different levels, and under 19, you came second, I think, didn't you, in the under 19s? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you had this humongous crash where you broke your leg really badly, and it was a terrible incident, and I think that was against Glasgow, wasn't it, for Eastbourne? And so I'm just thinking that at that age, you were what, 17, 18, having such a horrendous crash, which a long recovery time, and a very involved situation in hospital as well, I know. Did they have to place you in like a coma or something for a bit as well? So terrible. That's hardcore stuff.
Yeah, it was.
You would think, I would think twice about going back and doing it again, and the kind of thing that would nag in your mind when you did that. And then obviously now you've gone on and you've achieved this gold medal. So I think that just adds to the achievement that this everything that you've had going on many levels in your life away from the track, and still to achieve all you've achieved. Is it incredible, really?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. That was one of the toughest moments in my life. To start off with, we obviously ended up like breaking the leg, which was a problem, but we were still smiling. We're like, yeah, look, it's a broken leg, it's bad, it's a long time off, but I'm safe, I'm okay. They had to operate on it, so we were in hospital for a day, and then slowly sort of started to happen that, like, my breathing, it was like the bones from the the break, the fragments coming into my bloodstream and it going into my lungs. So that was really horrible. And then out of nowhere, I was in this real life-threatening kind of condition, and it was out of nowhere, So for me, it was really tough. But I just remember just like talking to Kristen and my mum, and that got me through that certain period, for sure. And obviously my brother, we got through that together. It was really tough, but I wasn't really thinking a whole lot then. I kind of got out of hospital, and it was like, let's go look at the state of my bike. Had a look at my bike, and it was like, okay, we need to fix that. And then within 3 weeks of being home, the bike's ready to go again. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then obviously had the whole year watching on the side. And as much as that was hard, it was also quite good, because we had the time. I had time to grow. I had time to kind of learn who I was as a person, and kind of understand that, obviously, to spend a lot of time with Kristen too. That was something that doesn't normally, because normally we're racing every week, and obviously we were fairly new to each other then. So for me, it was one of those things that was really tough, but it also taught me a lot about myself. And I was obviously really glad that I could spend that certain period of time with Kristen and understand each other, and that's where we're at now. We then got the call from Ian Sinderson, from ATPI to, do you want to come to Australia? And I was literally been on a bike, like, went on my first practice, I've been November, roughly, or maybe just before, in 2019. And he was like, oh, do you want to go to Australia and race? And I'm like, yeah, like, of course I do. Yeah, well, I want to go race. And I never race anyone, and went there, and that was really tough. That was probably one of the biggest struggles I've had racing. In my opinion, it wasn't physically. My leg was absolutely spot on. It wasn't like I was out of shape. I mean, it was just more my mindset. You know, I was pretty frightened. I was pretty scared. In all honesty, I mean, it's hard to say because you don't want to let people know your weaknesses. But I've built a lot from then now, and that's now in the past. So for me, it's no problem to talk about. But you know, like chasing people, I would kind of follow. I wasn't racing. I was the last to drop the clutch because I didn't want to be in the first corner. You know, all those sort of things. I didn't want to be close to people. And I was going in the corner behind someone, and I was thinking, oh, I could hurt myself here again, you know. And that was really tough. That was a really hard point. And then we had 2020, which was, again, that was almost the whole of 2019 out. I had a few practices. And then we went to, we then just got chucked into the European Under-21 semi-final. And that was like, whoa, okay, that was probably one of the biggest meetings in my career so far, and I hadn't ridden or raced at all, really. So we went there, and it ended up qualifying, doing really well. And from that point onwards, we just started to forget about all the bad things, and it was to continue on what we can do and to accept that, yeah, things can happen that you don't want in your life, but we can also overcome them, you know. And I was back to doing what I love, and that was a big point for me. So for me, it was really tough, but it was also even better to learn from that, and that was a massive life experience. So we've learned a lot from that. We've gained a lot from that, and now we're just looking forward to how we can go even faster. So it's great.
I put a little post out asking for some questions, and we got a few. And one of the questions was from a guy called Chris, who says, "What difference did it have in having access to a sports psychologist in your racing as part of like the GB setup? I know that you've got various support and things like that. Is that an area of the sport that requires development, and how has that sort of mental side of racing and of sport affected your performance in a positive way?"
Well, you have to look at other sports. So if you have a look at rugby or football, back in the day, if you were the one looking at getting like a mental coach, you'd be looked at funny. You know, you'd be looked at, are you okay? You know, do you need a hand? Like, is everything all right? And then now, if you're the guy that's not having that, you're looked at a bit funny, you know. So it's completely changed. Like same as the fitness, you know, people were to smoke back in the day. Now it's different. Whether that's just the era we're in, whether that's just the people we're surrounded by that are making us believe that's what we've got to do. But either way, that's what everyone's doing. So, you know, it's one of those. It's tough. I was kind of one of those people that was like, you know, I didn't really need that. You know, what would I need that guy for? I mean, I'm strong myself, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I was very naive to it until I kind of saw the benefits from it, and until I started believing in myself. When I started believing in myself, the racing got better, and I was like, well, if someone can help me achieve these goals by just telling me some things that sound so stupid, it's things that you sort of want to hear, you know, and it's things that they can work with you to improve you better. And yeah, that obviously helped a lot. I haven't done a lot of it, nowhere near the amount that I should have, whether that's just the type of person I am, or whether that's just where I am in my life at the minute. But for sure, if you need that, they're always there, and they're always there to help. And I know a lot of guys in the Speedway world are doing that now, and especially in the Team GB lot, they're obviously doing that a lot too. So for me, it's trying to find when the time's right and learn from what I need to learn. But they're always there if I need them, and I always know that. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think there was another question which we might have already covered. It's from Gordon. Gordon asks, what's your main goal this season, heading into 2022? I mean, we've talked about some of the hopes with the team, but for you personally, what's the aim as we head into this new season?
I mean, aim's always really hard. I mean, I never really kind of set myself set in stones. I mean, I never really say, I want to be, you know, number one, or I want to be this average, or I want to do this, but I want to be World 21 champion, you know, things like that. That's really hard, you know, and it's kind of more the fact of I want to just know that I'm keep improving and I'm keep pushing myself. I really don't want to be stuck in the same rut. As long as I know that I'm improving myself in a different respect every single year, I know that at some point I will be improving. improvement's obviously really hard to judge. How can you might end up getting a higher average, but there might be a lot of things that went right for you that year, and that's kind of hard to judge if you've improved or not. I mean, I could kind of look at the first meeting at Belle Vue where I scored 3 points and it was on TV, and I didn't score many points, but for me that was a massive improvement. For everyone looking on TV, they go, "I was only not 3 points. What happened there? It was a bad night." But for me, I was happy after that. That was one of those things. It was like a big stone for me. It was like I did my first Premiership meeting. I've got 3 points and I raced as hard as I could. So that was like a massive point for me. So for me to say I want to be this, want to be this, want to be this, all it does is put pressure on myself, which is unnecessary. I've got a lot of people that help me to kind of where I want to be, and that's definitely there's obviously points in your head you want to do. Of course you want to be an under-21 World Championship. Of course I want to be world champion, but at the same time you've got to be realistic, and that's something that I learned through like many people last year that kind of explained that to me. You have to be very realistic, and that's what we're doing now. So for me, we're just trying to work on what we have right in front of us and take each kind of meeting as it comes. And just as long as I know I'm improving myself every way that I can, that's enough for me.
Well, the Under-21 series, of course, different this year, and if you did get involved in that would be a trip to Cardiff, wouldn't it, on the Sunday this time round, which has got to be awesome for those involved in that.
Yeah, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I mean, to have that, to see the whole takeover of like Speedway Grand Prix, to have like the same stats as MotoGP, where they have the Moto2, Moto3, obviously MotoGP. That's really great, because that shows someone's trying to make a difference there. They obviously aren't happy with the way it was running, so they're going to change that. And fair play to them. They're obviously going to take a huge risk with this, but at the same time, I feel like people like it. Obviously, same as that, Cardiff's the main one that stands out. Of course it is, but you're also going to 2 other Grand Prix rounds that you potentially would never ride at again. So it's really important to give people like the under-21 guys this experience, and to understand this is how it works, this is how these guys kind of roll, and this is how these tracks are prepared for a meeting of that stature. So for me, it would be an unbelievable experience if I can qualify into that, which I hope I will. But again, everything happens for a reason, and I really would love to be there in front of that Cardiff crowd, especially going there for all my life. So, that would obviously be great.
Tom Brennan, my guest on Humans of Speedway. British rising star, already a world champion with the Great Britain Speedway team at the Speedway of Nations, the reigning British under-21 champion. But the question you're asking is, what would his dream Speedway meeting look like? Well, that's the next question coming up in the next part of Humans of Speedway.
Today's customers expect fast, personalized support. Intercom has the tools you need to deliver just that, efficiently, at any scale. Supercharge your team's productivity and make your customers super happy with Intercom. Learn more at intercom.com/support.
Family. It looks a little different for everyone. For some, it's mom and dad. For others, roommates who feel like family. And for others, it's your significant other, their golfing buddies, your children, a high school soccer team starting lineup, and oh look, they're all taking you up on the offer to stay for dinner, really testing the limits of that phrase, the more the merrier. But no matter where you call home, Geico makes it easy to bundle and save on home and car insurance. Easier than making 3 frozen pizzas and assorted frozen veggies into a cohesive meal.
Plan ahead this Valentine's Day with 1-800-Flowers.com. From first dibs on great deals to the best selection of Valentine's Day roses and guaranteed delivery. Don't wait to wow. Right now, 1-800-Flowers is offering 24 assorted roses for $39.99. Or upgrade to 24 red roses for $10 more. Get right to the romance this Valentine's and find the way to wow with 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in.
You're listening to Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brennan. My guest this time then is Tom Brennan, world champion with the Great Britain Speedway team at the Speedway of Nations, and the British Under-21 champion, and a member of the Belle Vue Aces in the British Speedway Premiership and the Glasgow Tigers in the Championship. But the million-dollar question is, what would Tom's own dream Speedway meeting look like? And these are the same questions that we ask all our guests, so you can go back to the previous episodes and get the answers from the previous guests that we've had. But right now, it's over to you, Tom. The first question is, if you were choosing a track to race on purely for the racing, For you, what would be the best track, the track that you would choose as your dream track in your dream meeting?
Purely for the racing?
Yeah, just for the racing.
I always remember Torren being a really good track for racing. Like when you used to watch Darcy Ward and obviously Chris Holder, and that was always a really cool. All the Grand Prix used to be really good there. So I'd probably say Torren for racing, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And well, it doesn't have a bad stadium around it either, does it, Torren? But that'd be the next question. That if you're going to put the Torren track in a stadium, which stadium would you go for?
There's only one, really, isn't there? There's only one. That's got to be Cardiff, isn't it?
Yeah.
That would be one of those things that would be, yeah, it wouldn't be real.
I know people go on about Warsaw, but Warsaw's sort of more spread out, isn't it? Cardiff, it's kind of on top of you much more than...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Warsaw, I mean, that looks great. And I've never been, but in the photos, it looks like it's somewhat similar to Cardiff, but you never be able to kind of replicate Cardiff and how it makes everyone feel, I don't think. And obviously with the riders, with their kind of entries and how they're announced and all the noise is unbelievable. And for like, that would be, that was definitely couldn't choose anywhere else other than Cardiff, really.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of riders who have done it, who have been part of that whole thing, you know, say that it just completely dominates you. You know, the atmosphere, the crowd. You know, it's a whole new thing to contend with on top of racing against the best riders in the world. If you didn't have enough on your plate already, you know, the atmosphere, the fact that. I think Jordan Palin said he'd spoken to a rider, I don't know who, that was on the start line revving their bike and they couldn't hear their bike revving.
Yeah,
just,
I'm not surprised.
You know, just crazy set of circumstances.
Then you hear some guys that are like, that they don't hear anyone, you know, because of that focus. You don't hear, I mean, I don't. I very rarely you can hear other people's bikes, but you just tune everything out, you know. So the start line, wherever you are, it's like, I'm my own guy, you know. So it's hard to actually hear your engine, but at the same time, you sort of just, you know, it's just tough, isn't it? But I imagine at Cardiff, that would be pretty spectacular to not be able to hear your bike.
Yeah. If we're going to pick a 1 to 7, then an all-time team for you, who'd be in it?
Oh, so number 1 would be Chris Holder for sure.
Ah,
definitely. And
now, who beat Chris Holder in the Grand Prix qualifier at Glasgow?
I think that was myself. Yeah.
That was a terrific race, though, and talk about living your dream.
Yeah, that was really funny because, I mean, I don't want to go into being a fan too much, but I'm definitely a fan. And I kind of was on the phone before to my friend Jamie Bursill, right? And he obviously used to race Speedway as well back in the day. But he was we were talking on the way to the meet, and he's like, "Oh, you're in the Grand Prix qualifier as like a reserve," and he's like, "Oh, I can imagine if you get a race with Chris Holder," and I'm like, "Oh, don't be silly, like I really wish I would." And then after the race, he called me and he's like, because he's a big fan of him too, and it was like we grew up like together and watching him and stuff. So it was like, you beat Chris Holder, and I didn't even, you know, it was one of those things that was amazing. So, no, it was really fun. At the same time, I mean, I know it's only a race, but that'll be one of the greatest memories I think I have as well. But yeah, and then I think number 5 would probably be Ward, definitely.
The Turbo Twins in your team then.
Yeah, you got to be. I mean, that's a big standout for me growing up, for sure. I mean, seeing those two at Poole was like, wow, that's amazing, really.
Yeah.
God, I'm like a fan now. I don't know. I need to get a supporter's hat, I think.
So then, Holder and Ward, the first 2 on the team sheet. Who's next?
I always liked Emil Safurnoff, number 3, definitely.
I'm surprised he hasn't actually done it, you know. Yeah, be world champion. He's been so close for so long, hasn't he?
Yeah, he seems like, it's just, it should have happened, really. But, yeah. And then I'd say Woofy, definitely.
Woofy. Okay, cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Being in the team with him, of course, you've obviously got to know him pretty well by now, I imagine, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, he's like such a cool character. I mean, you don't really kind of notice it too much until you kind of see him a little bit, but the way he is like in front of like the cameras and the way he is like with his mechanics and the way he works, and it's really cool. Like it was really cool to see how he works, you know. So that was really cool. I'm trying to think who else now. Smarslick, obviously, but we've got too big of a team here. I think I need to choose the reserves as more realistic reserves. But yeah,
you don't have to worry. There's no limits. So Bartosz Smarslick in the side. Which takes it to Holder, Woofenden, Saifutinov, Smarslick, Ward, and then you've got 2 leftover spots for your reserves. So who are you going to have?
Nicky Pedersen.
You see, we like a good pantomime villain, but the reception he always used to get at Cardiff was just, it was intense, but you could tell it fired him up as well, couldn't you?
And he loved it. He loved everyone calling him the names and shouting at him and booing him and stuff. That's what got him going for sure. And he was like, yeah, I mean, the Grand Prix, as good as the Grand Prix are now, it still isn't quite the same without someone that you don't like in there, or that everyone doesn't seem to like. It's real funny. But no, it's one of those, isn't it? But no.
So you got one more slot left. You could put yourself in if you wanted.
Put myself in, but that would be a bit of a clash there, really, wouldn't it? World class riders, but I reckon we go Dan. We'll put Dan back at reserve.
Dan Bewley.
Sure, I think that would be a pretty cool team.
That's not bad. Holder, Woofenden, Saifudinov, Schmarshlik, Ward, Pedersen, and Bewley. That would sell the tickets, wouldn't it?
Do that one, and I'll be the team manager.
You're the team manager. Cool. Okay. Okay, so the next question would be: do you have a particular referee that you choose to referee this? Because I think referees often get forgotten about in Speedway meetings, and sometimes you'd say, well, if you're not talking about referee, they're doing the job well. But who'd referee it for you?
I'm going to be completely honest, and people are probably not going to like the answers to this, because I actually have no idea. I don't know any of the referees. I do not know who's refereeing a meeting. Who's the one who does the Grand Prix from England?
Craig Ackroyd.
That's him. That's the only referee I know, as in standout name. So we'll go Craig Ackroyd.
Craig Ackroyd is always a good shout. If you're going to change one rule of Speedway for this new season, what would you change straight away?
No, I've thought this for a while. I think get rid of helmet colours. So people have their own crash helmet design, and it will be more personal. They could have whatever they want on there. And then maybe we could change, have race jackets that I don't know, keep the yellow, white, blue, and red, but maybe race jackets, or maybe we could have a fork cover, or I don't know, something a bit different. Because I feel like the helmet colours, if you look at Motocross or F1 or MotoGP, their helmet design is their main point of reference. Their number and their helmet. You wouldn't have a clue who else it was otherwise, would you? So for me, that would be a really cool moment. If we could get rid of the helmet colours and get on with the cool designs.
Well, that is a first. Nobody's ever said that before. I like it.
No.
Different, yeah.
Share it around and see who else wants it.
Yeah, let's float that idea. I'll pass it on. We'll tell everybody.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And the opposition then for your team, because you've got this team of world beaters. Now, the opposition would be an actual team that existed at some point, any point in time, a real team, one of the great teams. So who would you race against?
One of the greatest teams. Yes, Cradley. That's what I go. Everyone I talk to, and I mean, no matter where, Cradley was the best place in the world, and no one will ever come near that. That's all I get told. And that Dudley was one of the it was probably one of the worst looking stadiums, and it wasn't nothing was new, but it was real special to everyone. And that was I thought that before. I was I wonder what it would have been like to race there. But their team was pretty unstoppable too. So. Yeah, we go with Cradley. I'm not sure what year.
Cradley 83, I think, was the team.
There you go, then. That one.
Yeah.
We go with that one.
So
that was
Eric Gunderson and all those sort of guys.
I've heard a lot of stories about Dudley Wood, and oh my God, everyone. I mean, when I was working not so long ago, and people come in and they'd be like, "Oh, you ever heard Dudley Wood?" And I'm like, "How does everyone know about Dudley Wood?" I've never heard. Obviously I'm too young, but they were. They always rave about it. So that's quite cool.
Yeah. Are you in the Midlands then, or is that whereabouts you're based? So I was wondering how many. So if you're further down south, it's unusual. So many people talk about Dudley Wood.
yeah. I was going to say that's a bit strange, but no, I was obviously always. So I was born in Swindon, lived in Brighton from the age of about 9 or 10 till about 17, and then now I'm here, obviously with Kristen in Wolverhampton.
Right, okay.
Yeah, Midlands. So I'm here now.
Yeah. Omerum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm still picking up the accent, but every time I do, I make sure I give myself a shake and get rid of it. So
Yeah, it's all good. I went to Wolverhampton. I was working in Birmingham quite a bit a few years ago. I was working at Smooth Radio in Birmingham, and I got on the tram from Birmingham to Wolverhampton to go to Monmore one Monday night. Yeah. And that was a good experience.
Yeah.
Sort of weird being on a tram full of Speedway supporters, and it was all rammed. It was kind of like, wow, this is like what for other sporting events where they've got to crammed public transport.
What you're doing at the minute is absolutely fantastic. So thank you. Keep
Brilliant.
at it.
Well, thanks very much for speaking to us, Tom. It's been great, and always a pleasure. And I hope that your season goes as we all hope, because I think it is going to be a big year. It's going to be an exciting year for British Speedway, I think, and for everybody else.
No, definitely, and thank you very much for having me. And obviously, what you're doing at the minute is absolutely fantastic. So thank you. Keep at it. For sure.
Always a pleasure, Tom, and all the best for the season ahead. Tom Brennan, my guest on Humans of Speedway. And Tom is part of a little mini-series, really, that we've done. The last few episodes have been dedicated to the rising stars, the future of British Speedway. So don't forget to check out the previous episodes if you haven't heard them yet, with Jordan Palin and Jordan Jenkins, two of British Speedway's rising stars, and part of that GB Academy setup that you might have seen being put through their paces recently at the time of recording this. Plenty more episodes besides that as well. We've spoken with Tom Brennan, the British Under-21 champion. We've also spoken with the British Senior champion, and that's Adam Ellis a few episodes ago. We've also recently caught up with Chris Louis, with David Howe, and previous episodes, even going back further in time, with the likes of Nikolai Clint, Paco Castagna, Chris Morton. For the Belle Vue fans, don't forget to check him out. We spoke to Gary Havelock, Jeremy Doncaster, Kelvin Tatum, many, many more besides as well. Please do have a listen to the back catalogue. And join us for the next episode, which will be on the way soon, of Humans of Speedway. Take care, and we'll catch you soon.
If you run a business, Bank of Clark County has you covered. Offering cash management services to automate and simplify your business banking, streamlined digital banking, and merchant payment processing that's a one-stop solution. Plus, Bank of Clark offers corporate credit cards that help you optimize capital, organize expenses, and enhance your business. Whether you're looking to earn points faster or lower your APR, Bank of Clark County has the card that's right for you. Member FDIC.
Sports Social.